Okay, everybody, this is Sheets, and once again, I'm going to be leading the discussion today. Once we get Bobby's Zoom issues fixed, we will go back to that. But you know what? Good. It's apparently the good luck host because I ended up taking down GPPs in two different sports yesterday.
Look at you. I mean, come on. This guy dominates the tennis, then he dominates the NHL. What are you kidding? And you even made money in basketball. What is going on?
It was awesome. The key was also it made for like two great tweets because I won the tennis, the lottery, like all by myself for like 10K. And then so I tweeted before the NBA slate, I tweeted the key to the good NBA slate is having a good cushion beforehand. Right. Yeah. And I actually that. And then after the NBA slate, I ended up taking down the hockey, which the funny thing is, I didn't even know how much it was. I thought it was only for like 10K, but it was actually for 20. So yeah. I took that one down all by myself. And that one was like a slaughter. I was going into the third period. I needed like 2 points out of like 3 different guys to win it by myself. And it was actually like a really weird sweat for like a while. And they finally got there. I had everybody dominated behind me. It was like, I was like, basically, I was like as likely to win that thing as you were to win that 100,000 that you didn't win a few months ago. Remember when you had whatever? So, and I ended up taking that thing down. So I did the bookend tweet. I'm like, the second best thing you can do at the NBA is make sure you have a cushion at the end, right? So I had the tennis and then I ended up doing well in basketball. So I think whoever hosts the show is in a better position. So you better get your thing fixed.
Yeah, seriously, I could use it. I could use a nice little win on each two different.
Oh, and then what's his name totally owned me. He didn't own me, but I was one of the guys that was kind of chasing me in the hockey was Ship My Money was Adam Scherer, but I eventually realized I had him dominated, so I don't worry about him. And so when I posted the screenshot, he said, he actually came back to me. He said, "Oh, good hit." I'm like, "Yeah, you can't win all the hockey." And then he said, "Oh, no worry, I'm good with the NBA." And I looked and he saw he won the freaking 100,000 in the NBA in the lottery last night. Asshole. But anyway, so let's get started with today's slate. It's a little bit, again, I think it's a nice little handy slate, right? And there's some chalk, there's some non-chalk, and we'll get to it. Let me share my screen here. And one thing I did do, by the way, which I'm very proud of myself, was that I did some late swapping yesterday, based when news came out and stuff like that, because I was around and I could do it. I don't know if it actually ended up making me money or losing me money, but the fact that I did it was most important. So I encourage everybody to do what they can to make that happen. So you actually have a better take on the slate than I am. I literally just ran my projections and I'm just gazing at them as it starts. What's your overall view of the slate, if you have one?
I don't feel like there's going to be some massive chalk, but I mean, outside of like Montrezl Harrell, I don't really see anybody else who you're like supposed to have to play. And it's weird to say Montrezl Harrell as a guy you're supposed to have to play, but it kind of is that way tonight.
Yep.
Desmond Bane would be the closest other thing. It's not, you're going to have a tough decision between Steph and Ja. It is the second of back-to-backs for some of these teams, so you can be ready for some possible late news that might open up some value to where you can play Steph and Luka.
Luka.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting because to try and get different is at the moment interesting. We also have some serious, Jeremy Grant, whether he plays, is a big piece of news. So there's a lot of things that we're waiting on still, but we'll do our best to try and get through it. I do want to say, you guys, please check out TrueDFS.com. and join us in our Discord. Sheets' projections are just absolutely crushing. He's killing all these sports that literally, I mean, he knows, not that he doesn't know anything about it, but I'm saying he doesn't.
Zero.
This is something that he's doing with his projections, and it is an unbelievable ride that it's been on through a slew of different sports that are very hard to compete in, and he's done a really, really good job.
But the point is, we'll talk about this in another theory thing. It's less. I mean, look, you start with good projections or whatever it is. But as you proved to me like so many times, it's so much about just what you do with them. You know what I mean? And how you construct and things like that. Like, for example, and this stupid easy stuff you could do. Like it's no secret that I like using SaberSim to like build my hockeys. But it's also a question of of how much exposure you want to certain stacks and certain types of things or whatever. And with the tennis, all I did was I used RotoGrinders HQ, which is another one that you use is really good optimizer. And I just put an ownership limit what I did was I played 20. I tell you, I ran my projections. I uploaded them into Roto Grinders HQ. I ran 20 lineups. And then what I did was I said, okay, I took the top 10 and then I ran another 10 lineups with an ownership limit of 175. And those are the 20 I put in. One of them with the ownership of less than 175 ended up taking it down. So it's not like, anything that extravagant, but it's just like, it's a combination of science and art. And I'm just kind of happy that it's working. And it's not so much for me. I mean, although it's worked for me, I love like looking at these discords and seeing these guys that like have just as little knowledge about the sport as I do. Just take down like dollar tournaments that paid like 500 and stuff like that. I'm just kind of pumped for it. So let's see if we can't do something good in the NBA tonight. What do you think of Atlanta, Washington?
All right, so Atlanta, I think that like I'm going to keep touting this guy over and over. It's interesting because we've had a minutes limit on Capella, and the second of a back-to-back, you got to think like there's a chance maybe he sits, maybe he's even limited more. Even without all that, I don't know if they're going to play Gallinari on a back-to-back. I think that the guy who I'm drawn to is John Collins. I don't mind the idea of taking a shot on Trae Young. And on a small slate, I'm just going to say there's going to be a time this year where Bogdan is going to break some of these slates. I don't think I'm going to get any deeper on the Atlanta side of it, but I do think John Collins is a guy who I could see potentially making, in my main lineups. I think that he's a really good play. Last night, he was absolutely smashing, but only ended up playing 25 minutes. They've had a few blowouts in there, and he's still putting up like 38 fantasy points. So I think Collins is a really good play, especially the second of the back-to-back. He still has, more to prove or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like Capella might end up getting a little bit less run tonight. Although we'll wait to see about how that whole thing transpires, if there's going to be anybody sitting on the back-to-back or anything like that, because Atlanta doesn't have a whole lot to worry about, in my opinion. Second of a back-to-back also for Washington. We will not have the other bigs from Washington, so that's going to make Harrell stand out as an obvious play, especially against a team that plays big. Kyle Kuzma is a good tournament play every night. Last time it looked like he was going to absolutely crush. I think he had 28 fantasy points at halftime and ended up with 31. He's a streak guy. That's what he does. So right now, and with starving for value is the time when you do play KCP. And I guess if we're starving for value, you can include him. I'm not getting to Bradley Beal right now, but you're going to get really low ownership on him because of where he's priced. So I am going to be open to it. I mean, he's shot the ball extremely poorly so far. Take yesterday, for example, he was 7 for 25 from the floor, and he still put up 39.5 fantasy points. If he can make some shots, we might have a totally different story. So right now I'm leaning Harrell, and then I'm considering Beal as a long shot play with Kuzma as a more reasonable play in the mid tier.
As you mentioned, as Bobby mentioned in the intro to the slate, with the absence of any bigs, Montrezl Harrell is going to rate as the top point per dollar play. Well, unless something else happens, right? But currently he's rating as the top point per dollar play by a really sizable amount. And my early ownership runs have him at 60%. Sounds about right. I just don't remember Montrezl Harrell being that guy that could produce, more than 30 minutes. I think that he might
played 38 yesterday.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't remember him. Like, remember all those times I played him in the past, he's like, okay, even when he was doing well, like it wouldn't like run him past 30. And
that's all. In my opinion, that has nothing to do with what's happened. It's a different team.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'm kind of like reading into this. So my point, I'm trying to play devil's advocate for a second. So now they're going to project them at 32 plus. The combination of that, everything I said, plus the fact that it is on a back-to-back, it gives me the initial take that it's probably something to fade at 60%. But the thing about Harrell is he does have freaking unlimited gas tank, it seems, when he's in the game. So he might be that guy that's going to relish this opportunity to play, to play zillions of minutes. So it's definitely a tough fade. And probably in the end, I'm not going to fade it. I'm just trying to talk it through. The other guys that you mentioned, Kuzma, Beal, and on Atlanta, I do like Trae Young as kind of a tournament play. Again, if you want to stack the game somewhat, you could play him and Collins, or again the same conversation we had yesterday about Capella, right? Like, are they going to let him roll yet? And if they would, I doubt it would be on a back-to-back. So I do like the Collins idea, and then just put a little Meredith Street in there. I was just off the phone with my son, who's kind of struggling with a sore throat from Virginia, leading Bobby to ask me a question about a Virginia quarterback who I saw. So I'm like, okay, I'm just staring at my board here. He doesn't rate to be the greatest player in the world this day, but I'll throw in maybe a little Deandre Hunter coming from UVA into the mix here. He sat the last game. He was a little banged. I think he was banged up. I got to just make sure that he's completely healthy. But
he actually played yesterday, so I think.
Oh, he did. Oh, shoot. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
But I think he might be. I think it's a question mark of whether he'll be good. Like, I think on a back-to-back they would play him, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And he's another one that, again, like on a back-to-back off an injury, is not somebody I want to project for a lot of minutes upside. Let's put it that way. So we'll get rid of him, and so just the standard guys: Harrell, Kuzma, maybe some Beal, Trae, Collins. Nothing particularly different over there for me.
Yep. I think we're pretty in line. I mean, I have the priorities being Harrell, and then Collins would be my second favorite from the game, but I am open to the Beal and Young idea too.
Wow, look at this. We have a precursor to my NFL stack from Sunday. We got Detroit Philly.
There it is.
Next game. That's right. We got Detroit Philly, except this one is not at Detroit. So that's the only that is a big difference. And I think it's possible that the Philly-Detroit football game scores more than this game. I'm not sure. But okay, so Philly-Detroit. I tell you, Embiid has been very rather annoying to play for me at least. But is this the type of game where he's not going to go low on? It's a 5-game slate. He rates to be a pretty good play, probably, with Harrell at 60% ownership at center position, maybe Embiid is not, maybe he will go lower owned. I'm not sure. But I do like him as my favorite guy from Philly for sure. You mentioned Jeremy Grant possibly being either in or out. I guess obviously that's going to make a big difference. Like right now, I don't show anybody from Detroit being playable. And I really don't have anybody from Philly except for Embiid showing up. I don't get to Maxey today. I don't know. You like anything in this game?
Josh Jackson.
He started last game, right?
Yeah, but that's because Grant was out though too.
Right.
So that's a little weird, but I still like Josh Jackson as a problem is he's not going to be that low owned. The guy who I could probably take some shots with, even though he's not playing a ton of minutes, would be Killian Hayes at 4K. But those are the two guys who I have interest in. We'll see if Jeremy Grant plays. I could be talked into Jeremy Grant if he does play. But right now I have it as Josh Jackson, and that's pretty much Josh Jackson and Killian Hayes as a value play. That's pretty much it for me.
I'll tell you, I hate to look ahead, but looking ahead, I think I see where what the deal is going to be. You were asking where the value is, except for Washington. You have those Memphis guys, those San Antonio guys still remain cheap, and they're going to be paired on the other side with Luka and Curry. So we'll get there though. All right, so Knicks at Chicago. We have like the 11,000th straight revenge game for Derrick Rose going back to Chicago, right? He always seems to he always seems to do that. I'm just kind of well, I wouldn't say off this game because there is one play that I want to kind of throw out there for you. Randall's always playable. I think that's pretty clear. But can I interest anybody in maybe a low-owned Vooch at 8,600? That would be my one of the ideas, and the other would be a Zach LaVine at 8,500. So I would consider Vooch, I would consider Zach LaVine, and I would consider Randall.
Yeah, the Bulls have a really good little team thing going right now. I think that I would be more inclined to play Randall ahead of Vooch here, but I'm open to the Vooch idea. I don't necessarily love it, but you're going to get little ownership, and one of those three guys are sure they're probably all fine. I'm having trouble finding anything that makes a ton of sense to me, to be honest with you, in this game.
Yeah,
And I might need to revisit that one later because I'm a little bit hesitant to sort of pull the trigger on any of these guys. I think that, Kemba had a nice game the other night. That's at home. I'm going to play Kemba basically strictly when he's in New York for the moment.
Okay.
And I could see Derrick Rose as a potential, like, there is the back to Chicago thing. He's also been incredible point per minute. If he gets it going and maybe they're coming back or something like that, maybe he stays in there and plays 30 minutes. That's if Derrick Rose plays 30 minutes, I think that he's going to, I think he's a terrific play. I think it's unlikely that he gets there. I don't think he's gotten there. He's been at 28 this year at one point, but I don't know. I'm sort of struggling what to do here because I don't see anything that jumps out off the page. RJ Barrett's getting really cheap, but hasn't been as much a part of the offense. He's been great defensively, to his credit. I was reading something that he was one of the best, statistically one of the best defenders so far this season.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole Knicks team, to be honest.
Right.
So I like the idea of Randall as another one of those pivots, but we'll rank them later. But between he, Beal, and Trae Young, it's all kind of an interesting debate there. And the Bulls have the same thing every night, and this is a bad matchup for them. So unless you're going to force it in, I don't know how much interest I'm going to end up on the Bulls. The only thing is LaVine is always going to be the one I probably end up siding with, just because I think that, look, they share the ball, but if it does come down to it, I still feel like he's their guy who's going to go out there and get them a bucket. Like that's his role. It's his perceived role. That's his actual role. So I like that. They just are very healthy. And the only other thing I'm going to mention is that if you want to take a really long shot on a play who will put up 60 occasionally, it's Lonzo. It's just a really tough thing to do with these guys at these prices. So personally, I'm a little bit off of this game for the moment, but I am going to try and see if there's anything I can find later on, because I think most people are going to be off of it as well.
I hate to stray for a second, but something, I don't know whether you said this on the air or what, but that there was we talked about yesterday about Steven Adams, that Bobby was all into Steven Adams, and I was saying you're like, no one's going to play him. It's like going to be 1% owned, and you mentioned to me that in the bigger buy-ins he was like 20%. Like those sharp plays just going to be picked up on, and on the reverse of it,
the foul trouble ended up at making it look like a horrible play.
Right, but then you take the reverse of that. I don't know if you got, for those of you that were on the stream, I was talking about how I basically like 65% Bobby Portis, and Bobby was like, I don't know where everybody's getting all this Bobby Portis love from, whatever it is. And I'm like, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take out my Bobby Portis. I'm gonna make him 20%. I'm gonna put in Steven Adams at 20%. And the funny thing about it is that in the end, Bobby's 100% right. Like Portis did nothing. Portis was like 10%. I thought he was giving like 50%. All the sharp people just kind of like picked, just knew what Bobby knew, that it was just a freaking shitty play, So be careful on those value plays like that sometimes. Do a little bit more deeper dive than just honestly than just relying on my projections for openers. Sometimes like there's all the experience that Bobby has in figuring out which of those plays are kind of BS is really, really valuable. Utah against Houston. Yeah. The only thing I can give you from this game, well, that's not true. I mean, if you have any prayer that this game can stay close, let's operate under that assumption. Christian Wood, Jashawn Tate from Houston, Conley again from Utah. I don't think I'm getting to Porter. Oh, and what's his name? And Jalen Green. So Jalen Green, Jashawn Tate, Christian Wood, and then Conley from Utah would be the people I would play. But there's obviously a lot of risk in this game.
Yeah, this is another one. This is kind of a weird slate because it's not like there's these screaming plays, which means there probably is some edge. I will throw out a weird play here, especially if Bogdanovich ends up sitting, which I don't think he's going to, but it's possible. I think Jordan Clarkson, you do play. What if you play the other angle? The second unit sort of, they're up by 20 and the second unit comes on and they're sort of pulling away. The weird part is that we've seen this occasionally with Clarkson. They'll end up even sitting him sometimes. But I think Clarkson, this is a perfect kind of matchup for him, and no one's going to play him because of his, it's not like he's cheap. He'll be played a little bit on FanDuel, but I think Clarkson is kind of interesting. And he's a little bit off the board. And I think you run him with Jalen Green on the other side. I'll play Jalen Green. I'm going to just keep playing Jalen Green. He was 4 for 16 the other day. Big deal. Didn't get there the game before. He pays off all the money. He gets hot and he puts up 48 fantasy points. I want guys like that. And against Utah, even, which is, again, a good defense, obviously, no question. It does feel like it probably should be a blowout. But if it's not, I do think that these guys are interested, that Jalen Green's interesting. I'm not finding myself with any Christian Wood. I'm not finding myself getting to Kevin Porter on DK, but I do think on FanDuel, he's a little bit playable. It's another one that I feel is a little bit ugly, but I do like the idea of a Jalen Green in the long shot play of Jordan Clarkson getting hot and maybe this being one of his 40 fantasy point plus outbursts. The other thing is they did start playing Eric Gordon got a few more minutes the other night. I don't know what they're not really trying to win. It's weird with Houston, so it's hard to try and pick out. I think Deshaun Tate, that's reasonable. The minutes should be there for him. So I'm okay with all these guys, but nobody that screams like you need to play them. The best play in this game for safety is probably Rudy Gobert. He's a little cheaper than the 9K guys we talked about. He's put up nothing but 40 pluses this season. Against Houston, if this game is close, he could put up 50 plus easily. Doesn't feel like the spot where you're going to need Donovan Mitchell to go off, but I fully expect him to break a slate sooner or later. So I'm just sort of blah on this game for right now, outside of Clarkson and Jalen Green, who I think are both have tremendous upside.
You like Gobert more than Christian Wood, similar price?
Oh, by a ton. I don't want to play Christian Wood against Gobert.
Okay.
There's times where individual defense will matter, and this is one of those times, in my opinion. So sure, you could always get the game from Wood, but it's, I don't know. I would rather take Gobert personally. It's rare to say that I would say that, but when they're playing each other, I'm going to take Gobert.
So San Antonio, Dallas, pretty sharp DraftKings. They said, okay, enough of DeJounte Murray 7,300. How about 8,800? You know what I mean? That's at least puts more of a challenge in the game. So I don't like him today. The guys that stand out for me in this game, first of all, Luka is a strong play. Second of all, on the San Antonio side, we'll get back to Dallas in a minute, but all those same guys are kind of like okay, but not amazing value. So Vassell, Kelden Johnson, Lonnie Walker, they all look okay. Derrick White looks okay. But I don't think any of them are smash plays. But if you want to, stack the game somehow, you want to play Luka and maybe some Dallas value, if we can come up with it, then you could play a couple of these guys if you want. With respect to the Dallas value, there has to be some, right, with Luka out. So, right now.
With Luka out?
Excuse me, with Kristaps out.
I don't think he's guaranteed to be out.
Oh, you don't think so?
I didn't have any notes that
I currently have him in. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of used to him being out. If he's in, I actually don't know if I'm going to get to him. For me, I think it's just going to be Luka then. I was kind of more interested if he was out, to do Kleber or Powell or something like that.
If he's out, Kleber will be in a bunch of my lineups.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for me, it's probably Luka and maybe some of the San Antonio value. I don't know. Maybe this game isn't as good as I thought it was. Maybe it's just Luka and maybe nobody. I'm not sure now.
Yeah, I can get behind the Derrick White play. I'm not like in love with anything. This might be a lower scoring slate unless we get some
Okay.
serious value opening up.
Ooh,
But,
I like that.
Kelden Johnson's my favorite play on San Antonio.
Okay.
The minutes are totally in flux for all these guys who are projected. So don't trust the minutes projections for San Antonio, basically ever. Kelden Johnson, they were doing great with the 3-guard lineup last game. So now they went back to, now they're going back to, if they go back to their normal, I don't think they're going to need to necessarily do that against Dallas this time. So I think you're going to see more Kelden Johnson, but it's just going to depend on how the game's flowing. Podol has been unbelievable this year. Like, you could argue that he's the most underrated player in the NBA. He's a really good center, and I don't think he gets credit for it nearly enough. But Derrick White, Kelden Johnson, and then you've got, like, I don't mind Vassell and Walker, but why I liked them before is the low ownership and the fact they were cheap. They raised the prices. There is definitely a fail side to both of these guys where they're, in the teens of fantasy points, if that even. So I'm a little stuck between those two guys. What I want to do, but they both have the upside. So as of right now, I have Kelden Johnson as a priority and Luka on the other side as a priority. If Kristaps is out, or even regardless, by the way, Jalen Brunson, even at 5K, is still completely in play. It's not too expensive for him. I think that on FanDuel, you want to play Tim Hardaway Jr.
Wow, that's someone you never play.
I play him all the time on FanDuel. He's 5K.
Oh, on FanDuel. Okay.
Yeah. If he's down in the 5K range, it's very different, because then he can shoot himself into a big game pretty easily, rather than at 6,400. It's, even if he shoots well, and you're only getting like 5+X, probably 5-ish X, and whereas 6.5 or 7. I think Dwight Powell, because right now we don't have value, is interesting enough, but it's not the most exciting play in the world. Mostly it's going to be Luka and Kelden Johnson from this game for me.
If you didn't like any of that, you have a pretty intriguing. I hope this is a nationally televised game.
No,
you get to see freaking Curry and Ja. That's a lot of fun, man. Two totally different types of players that are both just awesome. And one of them is 9,800 that you're not used to see, 9,600 you're not used to seeing at 9,600. The other one is 10.9, who you might be used to seeing a little bit up here. Can I play John Moran at 9,600? That's the question I'm going to let you answer in a minute. But before I do that, I like Curry. I like Melton and Bain again. I like Jaren Jackson again. And I guess you're just supposed to play that, right? I guess you're supposed to play Curry and play a couple of Memphis guys and just hope the game delivers. That's my initial take on this game.
Yeah, I get the feeling we're going to have news later that's going to change some of this slate, because right now you're looking at very low projected scores. If you even play the optimal things, it's pretty wild.
Okay.
I like on the Memphis side, I actually think Ja fits in that same category as a good play.
Okay.
For whatever it is. I mean, he only took 12 shots last night and only played 31 minutes because they were getting pounded.
Yeah.
And he still scored 43 fantasy points. He's put up 65 and 57 in 2 of his games this year. This is a really good matchup. Should be a fast-paced game. No rim protection for Golden State. So I think that it's a good spot for Ja, actually. The problem is just, do you want him? Do you want Beal? Do you want Trae Young? If you're going to play those, or Julius Randle, I would probably give the edge to Randle over those guys. But I think it's it's certainly worth debating. And if you're going to do a game stack, I do think Desmond Bane is the hardest one to fade. I think Melton is going to be really high owned again, or highish owned again. He really, he didn't play well yesterday, and then he wasn't on the out there when they were just getting rushed, so they just kept him on the bench. He can play more than the minutes being projected for him. He's projected for 29. I think that's pretty fair. Somewhere in the 30-ish range is where I would imagine him. And if he's at 30 minutes, I think he's really, really good. Jaren Jackson Jr. got into terrible foul trouble last night, and I don't think people are going to play him just based on the game logs. He's going to put up 50 very soon, and I think this feels like a good matchup. So maybe Triple J is the way to go if you're going to do a stack and put Curry on the other side of it. To get a little bit lower ownership. I also think that Wiggins has looked really good this year. and I'm open to Wiggins. It's interesting on this slate, that small slate, and Draymond hasn't really had that game yet. This feels like it could be that kind of a game. If you're not going to play Curry, maybe you play Draymond, whose minutes are back in the 33 plus minute range, and this has the feel of a triple double type of a game because of the pace. So I think that there's a real argument to playing a guy like Draymond tonight. Whereas I don't generally like him as much when Steph was playing. We were playing him a little bit last year when Steph was out. So those guys are all there for me. I'm just trying to decide between Luka and Curry, who I want to go with overall on this slate, or if I can get both of them in, which currently with the value out there, it's not the most exciting proposition in the world.
All right, before we go over summarize everything, I just want to do this as really just on the cuff. So this is Prize Picks for today. I literally haven't looked. So here are some things you could do on Prize Picks. These aren't fantasy points; these are actual points, and you could go over under any of these guys. What do you think of, based on what you just said? Draymond Green over under actual points is, I know he's not much of a scorer, but it's only 8.5.
Yeah, I would take it. I mean, I would bet the over on that.
Sure. Right. I mean, and I'm looking at like some of these others. So you have Ja 25.5. That's a lot of points, man.
The average is 33.
Yeah, I get it. How about Tim Hardaway Jr. 18.5?
Actually, he's down. His average is down now. Tim Hardaway Jr. 18.5. I don't like that. I don't want to touch that one.
I thought that might be an under.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable number for him. He just doesn't do anything else. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. at over 16.5.
Okay.
I know it's a different, thing. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. over 5.5 rebounds. And this is what happens. I forgot to mention one guy as I often do. I do want to point out that Steven Adams is absolutely going to be in play for me again. I am not going to be looking back from the last situation and everything. And Adams today is what is he? He's 5.6. Doesn't feel like his best game environment for him, but I would take a shot with Steven Adams. I didn't mention that one.
His over under, by the way, is 9.5 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like if his over under for points is 8.5, his over under for rebounds is 9.5.
Right.
You're getting a double a good portion of the time.
Right. Yep.
And that immediately is going to put you in the 30 plus range with upside, because there's shot blocking upside. There's, by the way, he didn't have any assists last night because he in the limited minutes, but he did have he was averaging before that 4.5 assists per game. No, more than that. Almost 5. Yeah, 4.75 assists per game. That's a big number. You throw in 4 assists with that, and all of a sudden you're at 36, and that means that's without blocks, steals, and that's if you get just 10 and 10 straight on the nose. So I actually do like, and he's got a 2.5 assist prop. So if he's like 1 or 2 above any of these numbers, he's gonna have a chance at a 40 fantasy point game. So I do like Steven Adams with the way this slate is shaking out. I think I'm gonna probably go right back at it. You don't need to always play a center against Golden State. So that's the one thing that worries me. But they seem to be pretty committed to Adams. And when they were getting crushed last night, they did bring in Adams with Ja to sort of like settle the guys down. And at no ownership, as is currently projected, I'm going to take another shot on Steven Adams again.
I'll tell you what I'm kind of feeling. Again, this is early, but if it were going off in a half an hour.
Okay, we just had big news. So
what do we got?
Kristaps, Trey Brown, Sterling Brown, and Trey Burke are all ruled out.
Okay.
It's pretty going to be impossible for me to come up with exactly what to do with that off of the top, especially without having a starting lineup or anything. But they are. I mean, we already sort of knew about what's his name, Trey Burke. We weren't expecting anyway. But Sterling Brown also and Kristaps, that'll open up the door for Kleber to get some more minutes. Oddly enough, Reggie Bullock might end up becoming a value play on the slate because of that, which is weird. I'm gonna have to crunch that and see how it goes. I will put my builds up on TrueDFS.com so you can see exactly what my plans are to do until we hear all the news.
Any chance they
but
could part the Red Sea for Moses to come off the bench?
I don't see how or why that would be necessary,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's always possible. But I don't know. I can't bring myself to really think that's a possibility. I mean, they have other bigs too.
Yeah, I know.
Like a
Yeah,
bunch
but
of-
Willie Cauley-Stein, I mean, he stinks.
I mean, sure, but he's only playing like 3 to 12 minutes a game or
Right.
whatever.
Well, I'm just saying that if somebody was out and you're the Mavericks, so wouldn't you rather play Moses Brown than just for development purposes and for?
Why are you trying to develop anything? You're trying to win games.
I guess so.
The arguably the third best player in the NBA probably.
Yeah.
Maybe the second best player in the NBA. I don't know. Everybody between Durant, Giannis, and Luka. Actually, you know what? Let's call it top 4 because Steph Curry deserves to be in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be. I mean, it's not going to change a lot for the main guy, for the starting guys. I don't think. Maybe Powell and Kleber get more minutes, so that's going to probably pop off projection wise. And
it's gonna make the I don't know what the spread was gonna be anyway, but seems like a close game now. I mean, I don't know if what may have already been a close game. I don't know if Dallas is any good. But in any case, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that game becomes a little bit better. But then again, with Kristaps out, now Luka becomes like pretty well owned, to say the least.
Right.
But what I was gonna say is that I'd probably be inclined to take a shot at something that I did a little more, like 2 years ago, and just try to find a game that just go a little bit crazy on. Whether for me it would be the Atlanta Washington game or the Memphis Golden State game. Just play a bunch of guys and just hope it goes 260 or something like that. And just hope these other games dud, which is possible. All these other games could be. And the Knicks Chicago game could actually be sneaky now that I'm thinking about it. But there's no reason the Philadelphia Detroit game has to amount to anything. There's no reason the Utah Houston game has to amount to anything. Dallas game, I guess, with Kristaps out, makes it a little more.
Yeah, I think Luka is going to become much more. I mean, certainly going to be more popular than he was.
Right.
And he'll now be the popular one between he and Steph. So Steph might be actually having a little bit lower ownership, and we might get some extra value. I think we can probably play Kleber once we get the new projections. I'm sure that Kleber's going to show up. So I actually kind of like that. You put Luka and Kleber on one side, and I actually don't mind some of at least Kelden Johnson on the other side. So that's what I would do. And then you could also get in a Memphis Golden State stack without stacking Ja or Curry. Play Draymond.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
Then play Bane and Melton. I think that's kind of an interesting route to go.
All right. Okay. So we're going to do an NFL showdown video, and then I'll be back at 6ish to go at 7:00 post time, right? Yeah. So we'll be back at 6ish to do that and hang out, whatever. Because even after 6:30, I'll try to get most of my lineups done so that I could hang out a little longer. Maybe we'll talk about some showdown and stuff like that. But at the very least, we'll go from 6 to 6:30.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll send you another one.
Good luck, everybody.
Later.